The House of Balloons was the mixtape that started it all. The mixtape that introduced us for the very first time to the character of The Weeknd. And it laid the groundwork for the themes of his character as well as the themes of his music going forward. And in August of 2011, The Weeknd released the Thursday mixtape. Hello everyone, I'm finally back from my break, and we're finally back to my series covering the career of The Weeknd, which I started... Not gonna lie, it was a very bad time to start a series on this channel because we sold our house and then we didn't actually have a house lined up, so I was just kind of in limbo for the better part of 2 months. But we're here now in the new WhittyGuy office, got the backdrop and everything, and now I'm finally ready to continue my coverage on the career of The Weeknd, beginning with his second mixtape, the Thursday mixtape. This was his second ever mixtape. It is an R&B album, and it incorporates elements like dream pop, rock, and even dubstep into its production. And thematically, it is very much tied to the House of Balloons mixtape, with themes of excessive drug use and toxic relationships. Specifically, the Thursday mixtape centers around a toxic relationship he has with one woman in particular. I don't know if it's her or not, this is just the model who's on the cover. And of course, by toxic relationships, I mean that it's The Weeknd who is the toxic one in this relationship, as we will come to see. But unlike the House of Balloons mixtape, and what I found very interesting about Thursday, is that it is these same themes but framed through the perspective of one woman, of this woman. And by this woman, I don't necessarily mean this woman, I just mean the one he's singing about in the mixtape. We are given some of her backstory, and we see her kind of fall into this world of The Weeknd and then ultimately become a victim of it. And personally, this is my favorite of the trilogy mixtapes, both in terms of its production style, but also its consistency with its narrative. So let's get into the lore, and I'm gonna put this back on the shelf. I got all my vinyls on this nice shelf now. Look at that. I love this new shelf. This was a home renovation project. We didn't pre-buy this. The Thursday mixtape centers around The Weeknd and his relationship with a specific woman. Whether she's real or not, or just the personification of The Weeknd's treatment of women in general, is ultimately up to speculation. In fact, there are some people who theorize that the entirety of his trilogy album, which comprises the 3 mixtapes, is all about one specific woman named Valerie, but for a few reasons, I don't think that this is the case. In either case, The Weeknd in this mixtape is still the drug-fueled toxic lover that we came to expect from the House of Balloons mixtape. I do also now have the House of Balloons vinyl as a little vinyl update for you guys. I can't show that cover because YouTube would blow me up. In this mixtape, he is seeing this one woman who is referred to as Thursday because they only meet up on Thursdays. He specifically wants to keep their relationship as casual as possible and continue to see other women, but on Thursday, they are only for each other. And he continues over and over again to tell this woman not to fall in love with him because if she does, the deal's off. Because he is this drug-fueled, womanizing, aspiring artist who doesn't want to be tied down. And since he has no intention of slowing down, if she were to catch feelings and fall in love with him, it would just make things exponentially worse. And we'll see how this goes for the both of them. Spoiler alert, it's not good. So without further ado, let's dive in to the Thursday mixtape. The first track, begins with a conversation between this woman and The Weeknd. This takes place after he has made his pitch to this woman about the deal that I just talked about. And she's very hesitant. She speaks in hypothetical language about if she were to take this deal. And if she did do this, she hopes that he wouldn't regret this like she regrets the tattoos on her body. And she makes him promise that when it's not Thursday and he's off doing who knows what with who knows who, that he doesn't forget her. And right out the gate, this is really painting this Thursday woman as a very tragic figure, and we'll get more elaboration on that later. But in this track and in future ones, it is so clear that she is very lonely and seeking a genuine connection. But the only person who ever answered her call is the one person who would never give her that. And since she knows that he won't be faithful to her, all she asks is that he remember her when he's being unfaithful. Because very tragically, that seems to be the best that she can hope for in this situation. And in the first verse, he responds to her, because he sees that she is still actively seeking out this relationship even though she knows it will be very destructive. And he makes the comment saying that she seems to love chasing pain.
It seems that I don't know that all your best friends.
The only promise he makes to her is that if she loves the pain and the heartbreak so much, he can give her that. But before then, well, they're gonna have a good time. And he offers her everything. The money, fame at his side, the house of balloons. See, he has this newfound fame as a singer, and now he's giving her a taste of that fame. It's a very toxic and twisted look at what The Weeknd considers love. And finally, having spun his tale to this woman, she heartbreakingly agrees. And from there, she fully embraces his life. The next track documents her downward spiral into the sins and vices of his world. He invites her to forego her common sense and survival instincts, instead sinking deeper and deeper with him. And as he begins to go under from the drugs and the drinking, he makes sure that she goes right with him. Now that she's with him, she's not just a nobody. He is this breakout star, and she is the life of the party. And now they are both far gone off the drugs and the drink, and they are surrounded by many other women. This is what the Thursday woman agreed to, even if she didn't fully realize it. Even in their time together, The Weeknd's attention is still split. But in a very twisted way, she is set apart as the Thursday woman. And now that she has fully surrendered, he prepares her for what's to come. And maybe by this point, you're probably wondering why I'm choosing to talk about a mixtape that delves into subject matter like this, beyond this just being part of a larger coverage of the career of The Weeknd. Because if it wasn't obvious at this point, I do not endorse being toxic in relationships, substance abuse, or really anything of that sort. I don't know if you could tell by looking at me, but that clearly isn't my life. I mean, I'm sitting in a room alone talking to a camera. Well, I'm actually standing. I choose to talk about this kind of subject matter in this way because in my opinion, there's no better deterrent for these kinds of things than to show you their harmful effects. Because in this mixtape, we will get a clear glimpse at the damage that this kind of lifestyle can have. And I also choose to talk about it because while this tale at this moment is very dark and very twisted, I do think it's worth talking about because of where we will be at the end. And so let's get back into it. In the title track, we begin to see signs of the cost of his manipulations. It's becoming clear that even though the Thursday woman agreed to this arrangement, she clearly thought that things would change over time, that he would start to develop the feelings for her that she has for him. And so she calls him even though it's not Thursday. But his arrangement was very strict, and so he wonders why on earth she would be calling him on a Wednesday. She's Thursday. Why would he see her on any other day? Their dynamic is starting to break apart, but the ultimate consequences of this won't be revealed until later on in this mixtape. But first we have the track, The In this track, it is now Thursday, and the two meet up. He hasn't fully realized it at this point, but she has clearly caught feelings for him. But even though they are spending this time together on Thursday, it is clear that he is not emotionally available to her, even when they're together.
I'll be making love to her through you.
He may be with her in this moment, but he is thinking of someone else the entire time. And even though he can't seem to feel a single thing for this woman, he will, well,
I can't feel a damn thing, but I'm a touch.
and he also has a line in his second verse about leaning until he falls, which could be a double entendre. The most obvious is that he's probably on lean this particular night, which
Don't drink lean.
but it could also be a reference to the fact that since the release of House of Balloons, he's had this newfound fame. He has been discovered as an artist. And now that he has this advantage, he's ready to take it or die in the process. Now he wants for nothing except companionship. And tonight, that is with this Thursday woman. And then after this song has fully wrapped up and there is no need whatsoever for it to continue any longer, we get a verse from Canadian actor Aubrey Graham. And he basically just raps about how he knows strippers and stuff. I know this verse was written in 2011, but if you had told me that it was written by ChatGPT, I would have believed you. And this is the beginning of The Weeknd and Drake being occasional collaborators, but needless to say, they had a very tenuous professional relationship. But The Weeknd's relationship with this Thursday woman finally comes to a head in the production of this track is meant to feel very triumphant and carefree, and that's very much by design. And we'll see why in just a minute here. This woman has clearly caught feelings for him, and The Weeknd is finally starting to notice.
You see, it won't mean a thing to me.
And so he tells her not to fall in love with him because, as he says, he is just a bird. In other words, he sees himself as this free spirit who can't be tied down by one woman. He knows that she wants a deeper commitment from him, but that's just never gonna happen.
So don't you fall in love. Don't make me make you fall in love.
And like the toxic lover that he is in these trilogy mixtapes, he starts to turn this on her, because they talked about this from the start, that he would never fall in love with her. She wanted something meaningful, and he told her outright that he wasn't going to give her that, yet she still agreed to this deal. She told her not to fall for him because she would only get hurt, and now it's happened. She thought in the end that he might change his mind, but he doesn't change. He's just a bird. He nests for a time, but ultimately he will fly off and build a nest elsewhere. And the production of this track makes it feel like a victory for him. It gives you the feeling that he is truly free. Free to go wherever he wants and be with whoever he wants. And he has no regard or foresight to her feelings on the matter or their consequences. But boy, are we about to find out. Because if The Birds Part 1 is the denial of accountability, then The Birds Part 2 is the sobering reality of the consequences of his words and actions. It was too late. This Thursday woman fell in love, The Weeknd said no, and she got hurt. She tried to make him stay, even supplying him with drugs and alcohol, but The Weeknd still leaves her. And she begs him to give her time to fall out of love with him before he goes running off, like he was always going to.
Let me fall in love before you forget.
But no matter how hard she begs, he doesn't listen. This song samples the track Sandpaper Kisses by Martina Topley.
You're gonna leave.
and it samples it to incredible effect. This disembodied and ethereal woman's voice almost acts as The Weeknd's guilty conscience that he's tried to suppress in this moment. It accuses him of manipulating her into the situation that they find themselves in, which, to be fair, he did. It accuses him of being a deceiver, taunting him with the phrase that he told her. And it's implied in the second verse that he had even tried to taunt her with an idea of love. It was a twisted sort of test for her, a test that she immediately failed. He had told her all along that he wasn't looking for that, but she didn't listen. And all this that I'm saying here is from The Weeknd's perspective in this track. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I'm gonna say it right here. Emotional manipulation, not good. Don't do that. But this process repeats for the rest of the song. She begs him to give her time, but he's already moved on. His guilty conscience haunts him with this decision, but he did it anyway. He is, after all, just a bird. And unfortunately, as the very beginning of this track implies, it does not end well for the Thursday woman. This is the consequence of The Weeknd's manipulations and his way of living. He found a woman who was desperate for companionship and offered to supply her with that if she would just be swept up into his lifestyle, thus bringing her into this very transactional relationship. And so she was never truly happy, always wanting more, but knowing that it was never gonna happen. And now he's walking out, just like he always said he would, leaving her ultimately alone. And from my interpretation of the beginning of that track, overcome with despair and utter loneliness, she takes her own life. In these two tracks, The Weeknd has compared himself to a bird, a phrase that he meant as this symbol of being carefree and not tied down. He can fly wherever he wants with no consequence. But at the very end of The Birds Part 2, it is revealed exactly what kind of bird The Weeknd is. He's not just any kind of bird. He's a crow, a specter of death, a scavenger who takes what he wants, leaving only the bones behind. And in addition to that, crows in various mythologies and cultures are characterized as manipulative tricksters and bad omens. And the shrieking of these crows becomes louder and louder until finally the track ends. And it also may be worth noting that a group of crows is called a murder. While he technically didn't kill her outright, it was his emotional manipulation of her that led to her death. And to be clear, this mixtape is a concept album first and foremost. I don't believe that the Thursday woman was a real person. I don't believe that The Weeknd actually killed someone. This is merely a cautionary tale about the destruction that this kind of lifestyle can cause. And it's told from the perspective of a person who's lived that life and the women that he's dragged down into that life with him. And now, after the tragedy of that last track, you would hope that The Weeknd has learned his lesson in the cost of emotional manipulation, substance abuse, and all that kind of stuff. But rather than actually processing these events, he just dives headfirst back into drugs. The next track is so named because he is now fully gone on drugs, and not just in the context of the song and its narrative. In years afterwards, speaking about that track, The Weeknd has said that he freestyled the entire thing and he was so high while recording it that he has no memory of actually making this track. And this comes across both in his lyrical delivery, but also in the very airy and psychedelic production. In an interview with Pitchfork, he later said, "There are songs like Gone, where I don't even know what I'm saying. I let my voice do all the talking. That's the Ethiopian side of me. I didn't know what the musicians were saying when I was younger. Just because you speak it doesn't mean you really understand what they're saying." In this track, he is with a new woman who wants a taste of his life, a taste that he is all too willing to give her. And this track also brings up a bit of an obsession of mine, or a Roman Empire of sorts, and that is songs made by artists who are very obviously under the influence. There's something really unique about tracks like this, something that sets them apart in a way. Whether it's the hazy atmosphere of The Doors, the leaned out slurring of artists like Future, or in this case, the psychedelic ambience of this track. It doesn't necessarily make a track better or worse than others, but as someone who's never done drugs before in his life, having an artist try and capture that experience in music form is very interesting to me. And the whole track is just The Weeknd in this state, high out of his mind and bringing this woman right along with him. Rather than learning his lesson after the Thursday Girl, he just dives deeper and deeper into the stuff that ultimately got her killed. And the next track goes even further to restate the fact that The Weeknd's perspective on his life hasn't changed at all. He acknowledges that he does have problems, but he doesn't really want to change that.
I don't care about nobody else, 'cause I've been on these streets for too long.
He's gonna keep singing about this life that he's living, and he's gonna keep singing about it until the entire world has seen his face, knows his voice, and every mystery about his persona has faded away. But even then, he knows that his newfound fans will still be there. And if things change one day, if he himself changes, they'll still listen.
I think I'll be different.
Which I don't know the original intent behind that line, but now having listened to his career all the way up to Hurry Up Tomorrow, that line is oddly sweet given where we are now.
And I hope you'll still listen.
And the title of the track in itself, Rolling Stone, could carry with it a double meaning. One being similar to the metaphor of the bird that he used. A rolling stone gathers no moss. In other words, he can't really be tied down to anyone. But in the actual lyrics of the song, he refers to this rolling stone as this unending downward spiral into this life that he's created for himself. And he's gonna keep doing that, actually. He's gonna keep smoking until his voice gives out. He's going to keep doing drugs until he's made it to the top. And he's gonna keep sleeping with all of these women until one day the entire world knows his face. But until then, until that day of fame finally comes, he'll be there for the fans that he has in this moment. And the final track of the original mixtape is and the title itself presents The Weeknd with this decision between heaven and redemption, paradise, or between Las Vegas, which is the personification of vice, as, you know, Sin City, all that. Does he try and redeem himself for the evils he's done to himself and others, or does he just keep going down that road? He begins the track by blaming his reliance on all of his vices on his father leaving as a child. And now he's been doing drugs like ecstasy for so long that it's impossible for him to feel happy without it. And he comments about how people in the world search for their form of heaven or God, whether he's talking about it in a religious sense or in terms of a human pursuit of happiness. That's ultimately up to your interpretation. But The Weeknd brings this up to say that in his life of substance abuse and women, he says that he's already found his heaven. Las Vegas in the title obviously refers to The Weeknd's lifestyle of vices, Vegas being known as Sin City to many. And in the song, The Weeknd is saying that this Sin City he's built is his heaven, and he doesn't need any others. And so when presented with this choice, it was real easy for him. And this is where the original mixtape ends, but in subsequent releases post-trilogy, there was included the bonus track Some people say that the Thursday girl is Valerie, and who knows, maybe she is. Others say that the girl throughout the entire trilogy is Valerie, which personally never really made sense to me. See, for me personally, when I look at the lyrical content, he is very clearly moving from woman to woman to woman at a rapid pace. And all of them, for the most part, are nameless. The closest we get to any of these women having some form of identity is in this Thursday girl. That is, until the track Valerie, in which he refers to this woman that he's singing about in the track as Valerie. And whether this is the name of the Thursday girl or just one of the many nameless women in the trilogy is ultimately up to interpretation, but I don't really see Valerie as being the one woman who's in the whole thing. That doesn't make sense to me. In this song, in a very surprising twist, he is clearly haunted by guilt over cheating on this Valerie, which is very out of character given the Weeknd that we know throughout the mixtapes so far. And as an additional contrast to basically everything we know about the Weeknd from these two mixtapes, it seems that he was at some point truly in love with Valerie. Not enough love to not cheat, but I digress. And so this song is an apology to Valerie for this betrayal. He takes responsibility for cheating, which is a really good start.
There comes a time in a man's life where he must take responsibility.
The guilt is apparently eating him alive. And then he immediately backtracks on all that progress, saying that when he tried to cheat for the second time, he couldn't bring himself to do it because he just loves her so much. Woo! Just the mental gymnastics of like, man, yeah, I'm so sorry I cheated on you. I even tried to do it another time, but I just felt so bad about time number one that I couldn't do it. You should feel bad for me about that, actually.
I never thought I'd feel this kind of hesitation. My hand on another girl.
And yet, heartbreakingly, Valerie is apparently fully aware that he has been cheating on him, but she chose to ignore it because companionship with him was better than an empty bed. And so she tries to trust him despite the fact that he clearly doesn't deserve it. And so he begins to tell her that he loves her, and she tries her best to believe that because his company is a lot better than being alone. And that's how this track, as well as the Thursday mixtape as a whole, ends. The Thursday mixtape is my absolute favorite of the trilogy mixtapes, both because of the production and also because there is a consistent story being told throughout. The House of Balloons was a glimpse into the lifestyle of this, at the time, unknown artist. His vices, his habits, and his very unique style of alternative R&B. It was cohesive thematically, but there wasn't really a story or narrative being told throughout. And then he came back with Thursday, which was another look at this life that he lives, but through the perspective of the women that he has wronged. The Thursday girl was lonely and desperate, and that's how she came to know The Weeknd. And she agreed to be with him only on Thursday with the expectation that maybe one day he would fall in love with her and, settle down. But that never came to pass because the truth was he loved his life exactly how it was, and he didn't want to change that. And so she continued to get hurt just for wanting something closer to a conventional relationship. Meanwhile, she got introduced to his lifestyle and started participating in his vices in the hopes of maybe getting closer to him that way. But finally, she confronted him on this, hoping to get more serious. And that's where we got into the climax that was The Birds Part 1 and 2. And he tells her that that's just not going to happen. He likes his life exactly as it is. And so things blew up. She began crying and begging him to stay with her, or at least give her time to fall out of love before he goes running off on her. But he doesn't listen. She agreed to be with him because she thought she had no other options, but ultimately it was this decision that led to her ruin. I believe that the soundbite at the beginning of part 2 does imply that when backed into this corner, the Thursday woman did take her own life because she thought she had exhausted every possible option. And again, just to reiterate, this is a concept album. I don't think this woman is real. She's more just symbolic or emblematic of all the women that he was with at this point. And if we want to get really into the weeds of symbolism, this death could be more of a metaphorical death, where The Weeknd is taking these women, introducing them into his life, and then killing their confidence by treating them the way that he does. So not really a death of person, but a killing of confidence. But this tragic scene halfway through the mixtape didn't teach The Weeknd anything. And so the rest of the mixtape is him diving right back into his habits, seemingly completely unapologetic about anything that happened. This is heaven to him, and he's gonna stay right there, no matter how many people he hurts along the way. It's an incredible concept mixtape, whose point is accented by the dark lyrics and incredible production that we've come to expect from The Weeknd at this point. Because in 2011, as you can tell, he was churning out a ton of music for his mixtapes, some of which would go on to create an era-defining album, one that combined elements of sentimental R&B and hip-hop, and would go on to revolutionize both genres going forward. Of course, I am talking about the groundbreaking album by The Weeknd, Take Care by Drake. See, when this album first came out, it was publicly known that The Weeknd helped on at least 5 tracks and even featured on the song Crew Love. But as time has gone on, The Weeknd has said more in interviews that in fact the real story was that Canadian actor Aubrey Graham took many of the tracks that The Weeknd intended for the House of Balloons and was just kind of like, yeah, that's mine now. Specifically the tracks Crew Love, Shot for Me, Good Ones Go, Practice, and The Ride. And there's a great video on the YouTube channel Zevi that goes into more detail on The Weeknd and Drake, and specifically why The Weeknd really hates Drake. But it dives more into their personal and professional relationship than I will in these videos. I will link his video in the description, but what I will say here is that it seems like what looked like a great working relationship between 2 fellow rising artists from Toronto was in reality more Drake exploiting The Weeknd's talent for his own personal gain to cement his own legacy. Something that has totally never happened before. So once again, there's a link to Zevi's video in the description, but needless to say, The Weeknd does not like Drake. And neither do we. Not in this house. No son of mine's gonna grow up listening to Drake. But regardless of whether you think Drake actually made this album or not, Take Care released in 2011 following the release of the Thursday mixtape. And with that, there is my coverage of the Thursday mixtape, and of course next we will be talking about Echoes of Silence, the final entry in the trilogy album. And thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for your patience with me as I've been gone for, yeah, that long, a little longer than I was hoping. But I am back now, and I am back, of course, to making videos for you all. And I hope you like the little backdrop here. I'll probably experiment with different areas of the office, but I kind of liked this as a starting backdrop for these videos. Yeah, I'm loving my new office, and I hope you do too. I know it's just a background, but the background is in the video. And again, I am so excited to be making videos again. In fact, I do have a video going up very soon, if not now, on the same day as this video comes out, on my gaming channel. If you don't know, I have a gaming channel, Witty Games. It's been ignored for quite some time, but I am hoping to upload more there as well. My main priority will always be this main channel and the videos on there, but I am hoping to do more gaming videos in the future. And so if that video's out, I've linked it in the description or up there in the corner. And if it's not out yet, then my gaming channel is still linked in the description. Go and give that a subscribe if you're interested. I don't want to spoil it here, but if you like either Baldur's Gate 3 or Stardew Valley, it's gonna be a fun video. I've got a lot of great ideas for the gaming channel that I want to get to, but like I said, my main priority will always be the main channel right here with you guys. And of course, a huge thank you goes out to the patrons, as always, Sean, Happy the Knife, and the top tier patrons, RD, Snowy, and Bottomless Potamus. Thank you so much for sticking with me and being patient as I didn't have a home and then took forever in setting up this office, getting it the way I like it. So yes, thank you so much for bearing with me during this very long and very awkward transition. Hey everyone, it's your boy Chris in the editing room with a little bit more Patreon promo. Because for those who don't know, making videos about music, especially copyrighted music, is not the easiest thing. The first video that I did on the House of Balloons went through, I think, 5 or 6 rounds of edits before I got to a version that was finally accepted by YouTube and was able to be monetized. But I'm still fully planning on proceeding with this series, doing the videos, getting them edited as best I can with the content ID system in mind. And my plan is still to do a video on each of his albums, and then at the very end of the series, I'm going to do like a mega video that is the life and career of The Weeknd, and so you can watch the whole series through in one video. But what I'm going to be doing at the end also is I am going to edit essentially a director's cut, a version that has all of the lines and beats that I want in the video that I think make my points about the video perfectly, but that would absolutely get demonetized. I'm going to combine all of those into my director's cut version of that video, and that will be available exclusively for the patrons. Specifically in the tiers executive producer and up, that's the $5 tier and up, you will all get access to the director's cut of the Weeknd video. Man, my frame is orange. So to be clear, I'm going to be doing individual videos on each album as I go through the career of The Weeknd. Once we wrap the series up with the final installment, Hurry Up Tomorrow, I will be combining all of those into a mega video that will be available for free on the YouTube channel, but there will be a director's cut with all the content I was unable to keep due to the YouTube copyright system, and this director's cut will be available to patrons, executive producer tier and up. So if you're interested in seeing that cut, then consider joining the Patreon. As always, it is linked in the description, and for the patrons who have joined so far, thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoy the video when that big production comes out. And I hope you like this different angle of the setup. My turntable is on a dresser right now. Not the most ideal. I'm going to be building a stand for that, but first we need to fix this house. And I chopped the frame a little bit because my office is a bit of a mess right now. I need to do some rearranging, but I'm waiting on projects to finish up before I do that. And I'm hoping to get more mileage out of this mic now that I have it. I have the good mic that all the professionals have. So thank you everyone so much for watching the video, and I will kick it back to the version of me that was just over there for the outro. And before I go, if you take a look at the bookshelf that's in the background of the video you just watched, there are several hints as to future videos I will be doing on this channel. I won't give any more context than that. I'm just saying they're there. The spoilers are there. If you can find them, leave a comment if you think you know what I'm going to be talking about next. All right, now I'm actually kicking it back to me in the studio. But I'm back now, and videos are just gonna keep coming, so stay tuned for that. And I will see you next time for the next entry in my series covering The Weeknd, the Echoes of Silence mixtape. I hope that you're excited for that because I know that I am. And cut.